Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on these earrings, and these earrings use a very similar bezel to the 26mm flower cabochon that we made recently. And I wanted to, I got a lot of requests for using can I use a different size stone and come out with a very similar bezel? Well, yes, you can. You just have to, you just have to adjust your bead count, because your starting number of delicas will be different. So you have to adjust it so everything fits evenly. So we're going to do this 14mm Rivoli today, and I'm going to clear this off. We'll get a materials list going, and we'll get started on this earring list going. So I will do all the materials, and then for this color, and then all the colors themselves will be listed in the description box below the video with links to as many beads as I can find for you. So if you need to purchase, you'll have the link to purchase. All right, so you'll need your 14mm Rivoli. I used 2 delicas here, but you can just use one. I've got a 15-0 in the gold and a 15-0 in the color of the, so there's a greenish one for the color of the base of the bezel. I've got a 2mm fire polish, a 3mm bicone. I've got a 2x3mm rondelle. I've got 2 11-0s here in case you want to do this top, so that attach your ring this way. Here I used a 2mm fire polish. Let's see if I can. A 2mm fire polish and an 11-0 here, and I had a little double link on this ear wire. So, just in case you want to do it this way, you could have those handy. I've got some 4-pound Fireline. I like the 4. It's really, really easy to use. And then I've got a little puff cushion filled with beading needles and a stop bead, which is, let's make that a stop bead, just like so. So as I said, I'll list everything in the description box below the video. Sizes, shapes, colors, and amounts you need, except for the seed beads. I don't put amounts of seed beads in. And all the colors, the different colors will be listed. So if you love the amethyst or you love the blue, you'll have everything right there as well. Okay, I'm going to clear this off and we'll get started. Okay, let's get started. So thread your needle with about 40 inches of thread. Put on a stop bead around the middle. We'll use both ends of that thread. So I picked up and dropped down to my stop bead 36 of my delicas. I'm going to sew those into a circle by sewing through the first bead after my stop bead, like so. So this is what I have. This is what it looks like so far. So I'm exiting a delica. I'm going to just pick up a delica. I'm going to skip the next one and sew through the following one. So your standard peyote bezel. I'm just going to do this all the way around. So here, there's the first one. You want to make sure that pops up on the previous bead. Like that. Do another one. Picking up a bead, exiting this delica, skipping this one, sewing through the next one, making sure that sits on top of the previous bead like so. Just going to do that all the way around and then we'll step up. It's time to step up, so I'm picking up my last delica. I'm exiting right here. I'm going to skip this one. And I lost my delica. Here it is. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to sew through this one, this delica here, and then the one on the diagonal. This is going to bring me up to the top so that I can, or the outer edge, so that I can add some more beads. So this is what it looks like so far. This is what I have so far. So I'm exiting a delica. I'm going to pick up a 15-0. I'm exiting this delica. I'm just going to sew through the next up bead or sticking out bead, which is the delica. So just put a 15-0 in between each of those. So very easy. And just kind of as you're doing it, kind of let it curve a little bit on your thumb, like by putting your nail or your thumb end of your thumb in like this, getting a little little pull inward. So do that all the way around. Okay, time to step up. So picking up my last 15-0, exiting the delica, I'm going to sew through this delica right here. So the next sticking out bead, which would be this one, and then the 15-0 on the diagonal. So just like that. And this is what I have so far. And I, as you notice, I put it on my fingers. Just easy for me to sew this way. So we're going to add another round of 15-0s. So picking up a 15-0, sewing through the next sticking out bead, which is a 15-0 or up bead. We're going to do that all the way around, and then we'll step up. Okay, last 15-0. Exiting this 15-0 here, we'll just put this one on. I'm going to pick up a 15-0. I'm going to sew through this 15-0 and then the one on the diagonal, like so. And this is what we have so far. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. So this is the back, so I'm going to leave the needle there and thread, because if you want, I didn't do it on mine, but if you want, see, this is what the back looks like. If you want, you can embellish more on the back, so that if you wear your hair up, the back will be, will look a little more decorative. So we can do that. But I'm just going to work on the front a little bit, and we can always get back to that. Left this thread on the back. We can get back to that. And if you want to do some embellishing, just move the fuzz out of the way. So I've taken off my stop bead and threaded my needle, exiting an interior delica right here. I'm just going to sew through this one on the diagonal. That's just going to get me up to the outer edge so we can add some more beads on. So this is what it looks like so far. I'm going to put my stone in. So I'm just taking my Rivoli, I'm just going to sit it in there like so. Just make sure it sits nicely. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And I'm going to add a round of 15-0s. So picking up a 15-0, exiting this delica, just going to sew through the next delica. It's going to do that all the way around. Like so. I'm going to step up now. So exiting this delica, I'm going to sew through this one and then the one on the diagonal. Give it a little pull inward. Now I'm going to add another round of 15-0s. I'm just going to pick up a 15-0, exiting this 15-0, sew through the next 15-0. It's just like we did on the back. So you're just going to do this all the way around. And then we'll step up. Okay, last 15-0. I'm exiting here. I'm just going to sew through this 15-0 and then the one on the diagonal. Pop that in, add a little pull, straighten it out a little bit. So this is what I have so far. We're going to add some 15-0s, but before we do, I just wanted to show you something, or just mention that this Rivoli, I'm not exactly sure where I got it, this one, but I've been using Preciosa, and if you look at them, like, here, I'll look at the part where you can see it's really foiled here. Whoops. This one is a bit thicker than this one. I can see it just holding it up. See that? So I had to sort of jam it in a little bit, but it did fit. I just had to play with it a little bit. So I just want you to be mindful of when you use a stone, that the thickness could make a difference. Like I wouldn't have used more beads here. I would have just been a little bit more loose, in my tension. I have pretty tight tension, so just a note right there. Okay, so let's move on. 15-0, so I'm going to add the gold 15-0s. So I'm exiting right here. I'm going to pick up a gold one. I'm going to sew through the next sticking out bead, and I'm going to pick up another gold one and sew through the next sticking out bead. So I put 2 of those on. Now I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through this 15-0, no beads on my needle, and this 15-0, just like that. So I've just moved my thread a little bit, and I'm going to add, now I'm going to add my 15-0. So I'm going to add 2 of them. That's 1, and 2, and we're just going to repeat this. So you're exiting here, you're going to sew through this one, and this one on the diagonal, and then I'm going to add 2 15-0s. So that's 1 and 2. So you're going to repeat this sequence all the way around. Adding my last 2 15-0s. So here's the one. Here's my second one. And then I'm going to advance my needle through this 15-0. This 15-0. That gold one. And then just the next gold one. Just don't do that middle one. So just like that. Okay, now I'm going to pick up my gold 15-0. I'm exiting this gold 15-0 right here. I'm going to come around and sew through the 2 gold. So just don't bother with that guy. So just sew through these 2. See how that's going to place that. Just like so. Then I'm just going to advance my needle through the next few beads, so on the diagonal till I get to the next 2 gold guys or gold beads. I'm just going to sew through both of them like that. I'm going to pick up a gold. Notice how I push my thread out of the way just so it doesn't get tangled up. I'm going to sew back through these 2. It's going to make that little picot right there. So you're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, last 15-0, exiting right here. I'm going to sew back through the previous one and then the one I was exiting. So just like that. That's what it looks like. That's pretty. I mean, there's not a lot of contrast, but I mean, I think it gives like a different kind of look to the stone, doesn't it? Okay, now we're going to add our bicone. So just pick up a 3mm bicone. You're exiting right here. I'm going to sew through the next gold one right there. So I'm just going to that next unit. I'm going to pop it on like so. And then I'm going to sew through this gold one. And I'm going to pick up another bicone. And I'm going to just sew through the 2 golds to get this bicone on. This one, then this one. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. Change to a size 12 beading needle if you need to. So just add those and then come back and we'll continue. Okay, last bicone. Right through there. And then do this one. Just want to close the circle. So this is what the interior is looking like. Okay, so I'm just going to move my thread a little bit. So I'm exiting this gold 15-0 right here. I'm going to sew through this one. I want to get to the delicas. And this one. So 2 15-0s right there. And then I just want you want to be exiting a delica right on the edge there, because we'll add a 15-0 there, but we'll do that in a little bit. We're going to go back to our other thread now. Okay, we're on the back now, and we're exiting one of our 15-0s. Now, if you want to embellish the back a little bit, I would do just this little 15-0 picot, sort of 3-bead picot bit right here. I wouldn't put the bicones on the back. I think it would just make it too thick, but I mean, it's certainly up to you. But I would just do the, you know, this bit. So you would just pick up a 15-0, so for the next 15-0, like so. And you know, then you're going to go up these two right here. I need to change my needle size here. Yeah, let me go get a size 12 beading needle. I'll just do these two. And then, you know, put the 15-0s on. You know, the two groups just like we did. You know, the groups of two. Like that. And then do what we did on the front. So come all the way around, and then you're gonna, remember, you're gonna just put that third bead in there. Okay, so I'm just gonna let you go off and do that. You can rewind a little bit too, but I think you've done enough of these that, you know, that be able to do that. And I would just leave it at that, or, you know, you can embellish some more. Okay, so here, this is the back and it's done. And you can do any other embellishment you like, but I think, you know, when the earring, you know, from the back, I think that's enough. But you can add, you know, like I said, you could add the bicones here. You could, I don't know, you could kind of play with the tips here and add something there, whatever you like. But I'm just going to leave it at this for the moment. So here I'm exiting this bead right here, the gold one. I just want to get to the delicas, so I'm just going to sew through this one and this one. Oops, ouch. And then this very first, you know, round of delicas on the back there. So just like that, so you'll be exiting a delica. Okay, next up I'm going to pick up a delica, and I think I'm going to go with the lighter one just so you see the contrast better. If I'm trying to sort of go with this one, you know, match exactly, I would use the, you know, the base color delica, but I'm just going to switch it up a little bit just so you can see the contrast. All right, so I'm going to pick up a delica. Exiting right here, I'm just going to sew through the next one. Just going to do that all the way around. Delica, the next one, delica, the next delica. So get that done and then we'll continue. Okay, last delica through this one, and then I'm going to sew right through that very first one we put on. Just like that. This is what it looks like. Next up, I'm going to pick up a 2mm fire polish, and I'm going to sew through the next delica, and then I'm going to pick up a 15-0. I'm going to sew through the next one. I'm going to pick up another 15-0, and I'm going to sew through the next delica. I'm going to pick up a 2mm fire polish through the next delica, 15-0, through the next delica, another 15-0, through the next delica. So that's going to be your sequence. Do that all the way around. Okay, last couple of beads are going to be my 15-0s. That's one and two. So just like that. This is what the back looks like. I think that's pretty enough from the back. And here's the front. So you're exiting that interior delica right here. Okay, so we're exiting this interior delica right here. So I want you to sew through this one and then the one on the diagonal. So you want to be exiting this delica, the second one in. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s. I'm going to use the gold ones here. So I'm trying to sort of keep it similar to this one. So 3 15-0s, exiting, clear up a little bit. Right here, I'm just going to sew through the next one in line. Make sure they hop up into a little picot, just like that. Then I'm going to, not sure what I'm going to do here, so let me check my other one. Oh, okay. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0, and so I'm exiting this one. I'm going to sew through the next one. And then I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15-0s, exiting here. I'm just going to sew through the next one. Make sure that turns into a picot. And then I'm going to pick up another 15-0, and I'm going to sew through this one. So that's going to be your sequence all the way around. Okay, last 15-0. So I'm exiting in here, this delica right here. Just going to sew through this one, so the next one in line, and then I just went on the diagonal just because my needle wanted to go that way, and you know I'm not going to fight with a needle. And then you want to sew this thread. Okay, so I finished that previous round. I've sew that thread in, and now you're going to, I've already done a little bit, you're going to add your last group of 15-0s on because I just can't leave a space unoccupied. So you're exiting the delica. And you're just going to sew through the next one. Picking up a 15-0, sewing through the next delica, so all the way around. And then you can just clip off that thread. Okay, last 15-0 is on, exiting the delica, and you just, at this point, you just want to sew around your beads a little bit and this thread. So just clip that thread off. Okay, let's add the ear wire. So we'll be working with this 15-0 right here. So actually for reference, we'll look at one of these, the little gold picots. So the 15-0 on the side of that one, and then the 15 on the other side. So this one and this one. Like that. So just thread your needle with a little bit of thread, you know, foot of thread, put on a stop bead, leave a tail to sew in. And I'm going to sew through that first 15-0. Okay, so we're exiting this 15-0 on the side of this little picot and this 15-0. These are the two we're going to use to add the ear wire. So I've just come through with about a foot of thread. And here's my sequence that I put on my thread. I did a bicone, 2 by 3 millimeter rondelle, the ring of the ear wire, 2 by 3 millimeter rondelle, and a 3 millimeter bicone. Exiting right here. Just going to hop over to this one, and I'm just going to give that a little pull. This is what it looks like. So what you want to do at this point is you want to sew your threads in. So I would sew the tail thread in really tight, and then you can, your working thread, you can go on the back and sew through. So you're exiting the little 15-0, sew through all these beads on the back till you get to that 15-0 again, you know, just turn. Come through again, make it nice and tight. And then I would put knots. I would actually sew in over here and put a bunch of knots in. You can even put a knot here and here, and just to make sure that that ear wire is going to stay. It's not going to loosen up. So I'll let you go ahead and do that, and I'll do it as well, and then come back and we'll finish done. And that was fun. It was really kind of easy too, wasn't it? And I love how it changes depending on the colors you use. Like this blue one, I think really shows off every every stitch. And I think that's because I used a opal bicone here, but I love this as well. It's a little more muted and a little more sparkly. And this one, I think it really shows off like a flower in the interior. So really change up your colors. And it's amazing how an earring can look, or a component can look so different. So just to show you, here's the little group here. So I'll link the cabochon necklace in the description box of the video as well. Here we go, like so. And this guy didn't get one, But anyway, I want to thank you so much for being here. I hope you make them and post them on Facebook. So take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.